Hi there, Malcolm here with my 199th Booktube video, and today I'll be bringing you my August wrap-up. So first off the numbers, so I managed 15 books in the month of August, which totaled 1,821 pages and 14.8 hours. I haven't got the numbers for last year, but I understand that I'm still above last year at that point, which is nice. So with 15 titles to get through, that's quite a lot, so let's get cracking. First up was Jurassic Paddle. This I picked up in France. That's going to be a lot of these. Previously I've been reading a lot of the game overs I'd picked up, which are very few on words and feature a computer game character that's going through various mishaps. Kid Paddle is the original comic strip, and the titular character, Kid Paddle, is the one who's playing the Blork games, and Midam, the author, decided to do a separate spin-off of just him playing the games, or rather the games themselves. So I was curious to know about Kid Paddle himself, the person who's been playing these games. I also couldn't resist the fantastic, shiny, texturized cover here. This is awesome. And Kid Paddle is a comic strip about the character Kid Paddle as he plays computer games and other things in his life, normally gaming related, of his experiences playing video games and getting kicked out of the video arcade, where he doesn't treat the equipment to the degree of satisfaction that the owner deems. And unlike with Game Over, there is some reading to do. Not always. In some cases there are very few speech paddles, and others there's a lot of talking. Of course this is all in French, so I had to use Google Translate so I understood what was going on, which is fine. However, the font wasn't the easiest for it to pick up, but that isn't necessarily the comic's fault. It's my fault for not being able to read French. Yeah, really funny. I really enjoyed this. The art style is fun. The character is completely off the wall and macabre. He loves the gross, the grotesque, the weird, which leads to some very funny interactions. Yeah, I highly recommend Kid Paddle if you can read French, or read it with Google Translate or equivalent. There's loads in the series, and I think this, the Jurassic Paddle one, is a sort of a collection of the best from the series. I thought it was a good start point. Now, if I liked this, I would have then got some more. So worth buying, definitely. And after that, I then read Kid Paddle, Silence of the Lambs. Yes, I liked it, so I got another one. Again, I love the front cover. And there he is begging his dad to buy him one of these freaky, gruesome lamps. That's the sort of taste he has. And you can see his dad is always really impressed about this sort of thing. So yeah, more of the same. Worth buying. So there's loads in the series. Anyway, after that, I then read Valerian, the Shadow Ambassador, or L'Ambassadeur des Ombres. Another one where there's many volumes in the series, but this is the one that closely ties into the movie Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, which I really enjoyed. They did actually keep an awful lot from here that went into the movie. There was also some very obvious and big changes as well. You know, you got these little information guys you might recognise, and you got these freaky looking bug-eyed aliens, which one disguise themselves with a changeling. That all happens in here. Yeah, I quite like the art style. It's very of its time, but very clear who's who and what's going on. And I've got the special edition, which has an interview at the back with the creators about the making of the movie as well. For those who don't know, this is a space station in which many peoples of various different planets live, and a conspiracy unfolds that can cause destruction of the entire place, and there's a people that have been repressed that need noticing. And interestingly, I think this did a lot of things better than the movie did, but also the movie did a lot of things better than this did, particularly the ending. I think the movie really refined what happens in this, which is, I thought, a lot less clear. And also I thought the movie had better balance of what the characters got to do. This one, for example, Valerian disappears quite early on and is barely seen until the end, you know, the titular character. But we do follow the lovely Lolene as she goes through the adventures that of tracking down her partner. No, really great story, worth buying. And after that, I then read The Book of Elsewhere by Keanu Reeves and China Millville. I have done a separate video on this, so if you want to know what I thought of that, then go and check it out. It's my book of the month. And after that, I then read Web by John Wyndham. Yep, still going through the John Wyndham collection on Audible. And this is one I didn't know anything about. And this one basically follows a bunch of people who go to an island. It's got a very long-winded build-up to them going to this island and why they're going to it. Basically, they want to make some sort of utopia thing. But anyway, that's complete bollocks, really. They go to an island. And this island had some fallout from a nearby nuclear testing. The inhabitants had been evacuated beforehand, but it still receives some fallout. And when they get there, they discover a good chunk of the island covered in spider web, and they're very quickly beset by hordes of organised spiders. I'm not going to say super intelligent. They're not giant. They are, for the most part, totally ordinary spiders, but they now have a social structure like ants do, and they are very organised. And it just makes us all very, very grateful that spiders are not organised and are independent little bastards. Yeah, so the story sort of plays out as you expect it to. The title did kind of give away what the big twist was. It's going to be about spiders. Now, this is way before things like the internet. It could be web of intrigue or something, but no, it's going to be spiders. Of course it was going to be spiders. And of course there's a little extra thing about the people whose island it originally was and their right to belong there and all the rest of it. So there's quite a lot of interesting political intrigue about this island as well, which does kind of dig into the main thrust of the story. I mean, I suppose this is a horror story, but it does get a little bit bogged down with an overlong introduction about why they go to this island in the first place. But the history of it was quite interesting, but it did kind of take you out of the threat of these spiders. And the story does end up on a interesting cliffhanger sort of thing with a potential what if. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Not one of his strongest, but I did like the way it played out. Worth buying, certainly worth listening to. I can't remember who read it, but they did a very good job. I'll say it on that bit, which I can't read because I haven't put it there yet. I can't be bothered to look it up. Yep, so after that, I then read Rap Incident. This is a game over. I got another one. Again, series of very little reading, adventures of this poor barbarian as he goes through various mishaps of just trying to get out of the computer game that he's in or exit the level. And every time he comes to some sort of mishap, normally murdered by the princess, because she mistakenly takes what he does as an insult against her person. However, in this, the characters, as I say, die horrifically, each one. Sometimes it's an acid bath, or impact damage, impalement, beheading, being chopped in half in some direction, torn from limb to limb, and you're nice and bloody, and bits of guts and eyeballs flying everywhere. However, there's one in here which even I found was a bit grim and grisly. I thought, whoa, that's possibly a little too much. I wasn't quite prepared for that one. Basically, the barbarian inflates himself with air, floats up to the ledge where the princess is, they then kiss, and while kissing he deflates, and the result on her person is... that one got me a bit. But yeah, I really enjoy these, they're a lot of fun, and for somebody who can't read French, there's no French in it, so that's brilliant. Worth buying. And after that I then read Magnus Power Mouse. This was in my jar of mystery. Every now and again I turn to the jar of mystery and put out one of the pieces of paper in there with book titles on it of stuff that aren't on my current list, so aren't going to be a book of the month. Anyway, this one came up. This is a reread and one of my most cherished favourite books of my childhood. This is actually a replacement copy because that copy fell apart. And basically it's about a couple of mice who live on the property of some humans. It's quite a rural property. They've got pigs and rabbits and various things. And during her pregnancy, she eats a lot of patent porker pills for fattening up the pig and end up giving birth to a monster mouse that's the name Magnus. It's a gentle tale as these two deal with this never stop eating voracious, and Magnus goes on a little adventure when the local rat catcher shows some interest in the unusual goings on at this place. Really, really good. Of course I'm going to say about Booktastic. It was my childhood favourite. I still really loved rereading it after all these years. It's best known for The Sheep Pig, which got turned into the movie Babe, which I've never actually seen. I've read The Sheep Pig, but Magnus Power Mouse doesn't get the attention it deserves. Absolutely love it. After that, I then read Point Horror, The Hitchhiker by R.L. Stine. As you well know, I don't have the best relationship with R.L. Stine's writing, so I went into this one with a huge amount of trepidation. The last one I read of his was The Snowman, which was another point horror, which I absolutely hated, so wasn't looking forward to this one. Hitchhiker follows a pair of girls who are travelling across the country, and they pick up a hitchhiker. And you can tell this is not a popular thing with one of the girls. I think the driver picks them up, the other one is not so keen, and they have a little bit of a disagreement about the whole picking him up, particularly when news reports of a driver being attacked by a supposed hitchhiker keeps airing everywhere they go, and the girls are really doubting that they've done the right thing. I really enjoyed it. It surprised me. I thought it was really interestingly done. The obvious things weren't necessarily as obvious as they were, unless you cottoned on to that pretty quick. There's some things that came up that I did see coming. There were some things that came up that I didn't see coming from a mile away. I mean, the ending you just couldn't predict at all. I mean, where the hell did that come from? But wow. Yeah, I I recommend that one. R.L. Stine does get them right occasionally, and he did it this time. Worth buying. There's not much more I can say about it without giving away spoilers and stuff, but yeah, really good. And after that, I then read the second point horror out of 3, The Train by Diane Ho. Diane has generally done some fantastic ones. Her Freeze Tag and The Fever I gave the full marks for. And so I went into this one with high expectations. And I wasn't so much disappointed as it didn't hit the bar as high as the previous entries have been. I found it a little tropey perhaps. Basically follows a class trip on a train where Vez classmates start getting attacked for reasons. And for something that's actually called The Train, there's quite a huge chunk of the story that takes place not on a train. And then they get back on a train again, and the story concludes with a few interesting revelations. One I saw a mile off. I thought that's pretty obvious, although some of the things in it were a bit peculiar. It is a bite, but I don't know, it didn't quite have the pizzazz that The Fever and Freeze Tag had. I think it's because of the motive was a bit... Anyway, it's quite good. So, The Train. And after that, I then read Dusty Dawn, The Evil Legacy, or L'Héritage Maléfique. It's had sort of a Buffy the Vampire Slayer vibes to it. Essentially, due to the battle between heaven and hell, many of the denizens of hell have left as refugees to Earth. So there's a refugee relocation program settling these demons into Earth. Some are able to incorporate themselves into normal society, and some are less good. And Dusty Dawn is our protagonist, who is the one who basically is hired to help keep the demons who won't behave in line. And he's essentially hired to go to a place and pick up a package. That's it. That's all he's got to do. And of course, everybody else wants this package, which leads to I suppose a farce, as these various different groups, human and non-human, fighting over each other, trying to get to this package, while Dusty Dawn is doing his best to stay alive. Really witty, really funny. I really enjoyed the action. The artwork is really clear and bright. Yeah, a lot of build-up in this one. I'm very keen to get my hands on the continuation. And unlike with a lot of French graphic novels where there's like a million entries, I don't think there's too many of this one, Famous Last Words. But yeah, I've been very interested to continue this series. Worth buying. And after that, I then read Attack of the Blorks, another Game Over book, and like with Jurassic Paddle, this is a selection of the best from the entire Game Over series. So there are obviously some duplicates in here from Game Over books I've got, because I've got a few of them now. Yeah, more of the same, but worth buying. And after that, I then read 451 on Audible by Ray Bradbury. This was a book that always comes up in one of these top 100 books you must read before you die sort of things. And I've never read it, so I thought, well, it's right there, it's free, I might as well do it, give it a go. Or did I pay for this one? No, I think this was a credit. So I thought I might as well give it a go. And so I did. And yeah, really good. I can see why people make a fuss about this one. Eventually, this is in a weird dystopian future where firemen are men who go out and burn banned books. That is their job. Having books of any kind almost is illegal. Most of them are banned. And there's a great line in there about having books makes it unfair to those who don't have books, because it makes them feel stupid if you're more well read than they are. And it wasn't that long in this country, some politician, I can't remember which one, said it's not fair to read to your children because it gives your children an unfair advantage over those children whose parents don't read to them. Some very interesting parallels between what is going on right now with the banning of books and the disparagement towards books and reading and those who read. It's quite extraordinary. And it's all very well children at schools doing Of Mice and Men or Lord of the Flies or all those ones. But I think Fahrenheit 451 is a must read for children and adults. I mean, if you haven't read it, read it, listen to it. It's quite a short book. It doesn't overstay its welcome. And effectively it follows a fireman who is good at his job, but he begins to realise that something's missing out of his life. There's a neighbour who puts ideas into his head. He starts doing things that he really shouldn't be doing, and things sort of snowball from there. The narrator really gave an interesting gravitas to the story. I can't remember who read it, but they did a really bang-up job. So I highly recommend listening to it on Audible. Yeah, booktastic. If you haven't read it, go read it now and come back. I can totally see why this features on these best 100 book lists. Many of the books on these 100 book lists I have not read. I think the latest 100 best books list that went around a couple of months ago, I hadn't read a single one of them, and probably will never do so. So I don't agree with these 100 best book lists for the most of the part, but this one, definitely read it. Have I said read it yet? I think I have. And after that, I then read my third and final point horror of this session, The Waitress by Sinclair Smith. I don't think I've read any of hers yet, or if I do, I don't remember. So I had no expectations for this one. And it's read like a sort of generic teen horror story. It was okay. Schoolgirl lies to get into being a waitress at a place, saying that she has experience and she doesn't really. That doesn't really come into it at all. And weird pranks keep being played on her and those around her. I mean, pretty nasty ones as well. Makes her job a lot harder and makes her look a lot more incompetent. There's a bully in school who's making her life miserable, who happens to be the niece of the owner of the restaurant that she's working at, which makes things even more complicated. She's really into the boy that the bully considers to be her boyfriend, but he's not into her at all and is actually interested in our main character. There's a weird love triangle sort of going on as well, on top of everything else. So a lot of that sort of teenage angst going on. And then the big reveal comes out and you think, really? That was kind of a bit ridiculous, really. But I would say I was intrigued enough. It kept me turning the page. There were certain possibilities of who is it and why. And I was hooked, I must say. So I will say it is worth reading. It's just the payoff didn't really pay off for me. It has a good ending, but it's like, come on. But no Duff ones this time, which is really nice. And after that, I then read The Legendaries, The Jovinia Stone, or La Legendaries, La Pierre di Jovenia. And this is a fantastic fantasy story set in a world where there's a big evil, big Sauron type character who's trying to do a thing. He gets these infinity stones type things, and he's going to cast a spell to make him eternally young. Our heroes step in to stop him, and something goes horribly wrong, and all the adults of the world are turned into children. And the story starts with our main character, Daniel. Yeah, we've got a nice little crib sheet at the front of who's who starts off going around bringing the band back together. They've all gone their separate ways. They're now outcasts, having caused this mess or being blamed for this mess. But he goes around bringing the band back together because he thinks he's found the solution to the problem. He's going to find another of these infinity stones. They're not infinity stones, they're called something else, but they're infinity stones, which will hopefully reverse the spell. So it's getting the band back together, and then they go off on the adventure story. There's literally a million volumes of the series, and there's at least 2 spin-offs I saw on the shelves in France. So like, bloody hell, this is quite an investment if you want to go down the Legendaries. The action jumps off the page. The art is vibrant and colourful, and the humour is laugh out loud. There were some really funny moments in this, and it really plays on the whole. If you're embarrassed about your childhood, then you've got to be part of it again, because poor Razia here was like the Hercules of the band. Big, strong, muscular, tower among men, and now he's having to exist back as he's a buck-toothed, slightly overweight, but still extremely strong child version. They've all got family issues and other issues going on, so they're quite complex characters as well. Yeah, really enjoyed this, highly recommend it. Yeah, booktastic. And after that I then read The Light That Never Was by Lloyd Biggle Jr. Now, this is a book that's haunted me for years, because my dad had this in their glass-fronted bookcase at the top of the stairs, and I'd see that sort of view coming up the stairs every time we went upstairs, which is a bit weird. They're a bunch of aliens. They do come into it near the end of the story, as they're described. So, oh, it's those guys on the front cover that's freaked me out for years. And this story is about... What the hell's this story about? Really hard to explain, actually. Basically, it's set on a planet where artists come because the light is so beautiful that it's a good place to paint. And there's a huge anti-alien sentiment being spreading across the stars. I mean, real sort of xenophobic violence, really, which was really interesting, because I was reading this while we had the so-called racial riots in and around the UK. They weren't riots, it was just hooligans being arseholes, but there were riots. So we have that huge racist movement going on in this country, while I was reading this, which was featuring a huge racist, alienist or xenophobic movement going across the galaxy. It's a weird thing between reality and my reading again. Fahrenheit 451 and then this. I thought art's supposed to imitate life, not the other way around. And anyway, an alien creature, which they're calling animaloids, which really does paint the picture of how humanity is treating and viewing aliens. Even when they are on a level footing, they're still treated as inferior by default. So that's a really interesting social commentary there anyway. Anyway, one of these animaloids produces the most amazing art ever. I mean, I've not seen anything like it. It really captivates. It's weird and disturbing, but can it be charactered as art if it's from one of these inferior races, sort of thing? And then that sort of disappears, and we have this other thing going on where there seems to be some attempt to instigate anti-animaloid feelings in the population of this planet, because this planet doesn't have any. I mean, it has this native swamp slug, which is extremely rare and virtually never seen, but apart from that, there aren't any aliens on this planet, and so and they're all artists, and they're all quite happy painting and stuff, and so all the attempts, or a lot of the attempts of trying to curry this riotous behaviour seems to falter. And we follow the mayor as they're trying to stop this person or find out who's doing it. So there's a bit of a what if. But yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, it's a little bit similar in plot to the Watchers of the Dark, the second Jan Darzek, my favourite book of all time, which has the spreading of this, again, a sort of riotous behaviour. Popular theme with Old Bilger Jr., obviously. But yeah, there's an awful lot of, I'm not quite sure what's going on, but I'm enjoying it anyway. Sort of, unlike with other books where you have no idea what's going on, it's like, well, what's the point of even carrying on? This was interesting. I didn't know what was going on, but I was enjoying the ride as it was. I didn't get too lost in the art stuff. It started to a bit, but it wasn't too much. And there was, when the plot started plotting, it was interesting. There we go. Worth buying. There you go. Ordinarily, I'd do a TBR for September, but as I'm filming this in October, there's no point because it's already been and gone, and so I'll do another video now. Comments below, please, for what you thought about these books. If you had any, are you interested in any? As usual, if you have nothing nice to say, then please keep it to yourself. Thank you, and until next time, like literally in 5 seconds' time, see you later.